Other news here at 5, the city of Aurora closing an apartment complex today, saying it was unsafe and unfit for people to live in. The complex filled with many immigrants who now have to find a new place to stay.
Advocates say that there was just too little warning for so many families with kids. Fox 31's Vicente Arenas is joining us now live from the Aurora Municipal Center with more on this story. Vicente.
Erica, the city describing this as an abatement process. They'd been talking back and forth with this complex, the complex saying there were problems with crime, the city saying there were deplorable conditions at this complex. It all came to a head today. A chaotic scene outside the apartments in the 1500 block of Nome Street in Aurora. Fox 31 found entire families on the street saying they had nowhere to go after the city shut down the complex near Colfax and Nome Street. Earlier in the morning, a team of police officers accompanied code enforcement crews and went door to door in the 98-unit building, making sure everyone was out. It's very difficult, Betty Rodriguez, who is from Venezuela, said. The city of Aurora said it shut down the complex because living conditions are unfit for human habitation, and there were code violations dating back to 2 years ago. The mayor of Aurora called the owners of the complex slumlords. The owners of the complex and CBZ management claimed it couldn't do maintenance or repairs because the complex was overrun by a migrant gang.
So I have been following this, and I plan on doing a more extensive story on it and breakdown on it on the Millionaire Morning Show. So make sure you guys tap in the morning on my other channel, and then we're going to go over it. And also, thank you to the sponsor, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, plus 20% off for life. And then last but not least, make sure you guys tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Now, what I had been hearing is that basically similarly to what it is that you just heard, and that migrant gangs have basically come and taken over the entire complex. What it said was, and I quote, and I have been doing my research, and again, we're gonna break this down on the Millionaire Morning Show, is that it was only one American family living there, and the rest of them were Venezuelan migrants. And this is over in Denver. Let me say that again. One American family, the rest of them, and you got to remember, Denver was Mayor Mike Johnson was one of the mayors that was advocating and was on the same, he was the only white mayor that was advocating for sanctuary cities inside of the United States of America. There's letters, and I'm going to present that on the Millionaire Morning Show tomorrow. There's letters that they went and wrote and signed and declared themselves, along with Brandon Johnson in Chicago, Eric Adams in New York, Andre Dickens in Atlanta, and Karen Bass in Los Angeles. And then it was Mike Johnson. He was the other guy, and I was in Denver, and I was breaking down, and I've been breaking this down for years now, for at least 2.5 years, about how Denver had become a slum place, and gangs, Venezuelan gangs, had basically came over and take over entire parts of the city, including, I guess, and this is the first time that I'm really hearing about this over the last couple of days, this place in Aurora over near Denver, right? And so what you're basically seeing is the results. And what the people are saying now, I have no doubt in my mind that, the place was probably not as up to date as it was supposed to be. But then the owners is basically saying, listen, prior to 2 years ago, we had zero problems at this facility, whatever the management company is. We had zero problems at this facility. And now we didn't start hearing and catching problems until Venezuelan gangs came over here and took over everything. And then we didn't start hearing from the city until 2 years ago. But at the same time, they have largely prevented us from even being able to get in there and do anything in the first place. And so what you're starting to see is the downfall of America. I'm going to let a little bit more play, and then I'm going to break down my thoughts after this.
Still, housing advocates say tenants were being treated unfairly.
Because the city only gave them notice of 6 days, and with today being the last day, a lot of the resource and community organizations that are rallying behind this, they were only able to start collaborating Friday of last week.
This woman says,
these people don't even speak English, family. Family. These people don't even speak English, and they're getting resources, and they have cars, and they're driving, and they have driver's licenses. And I don't know where they're getting all of this extra money, because they also are working on top of getting the resources that's being supplied to them by the government. And again, this goes up. You know how they always say trickle down economics and things like that? This is a direct result of our border being left open. And now our cities, and most of them urban communities, is being overran by people that are not from the United States of America, and they don't even speak English. Family, they don't even speak English. No hablo inglés. No English whatsoever. You almost got to get a translator and go closed caption in order to hear what some of these people are saying. And so I've been paying attention for a long time, and I've been looking at and studying every single problem that's been happening in these cities. And again, we're going to break it down on the morning show tomorrow. But the conditions are deplorable, and it's directly as a result of what happened from the top, and then the mayors that supported it, and then you are the ones that pay for it as taxpayers, both you and I, even if you're not in one of these sanctuary cities. Our federal government are literally funding your displacement in these cities, and you're sitting here telling me that I'm supposed to just roll with the person, not ask no questions, and they haven't even provided us an explanation whatsoever.
She and her son were not given enough time to move out. The city said it was trying to help people find new temporary housing. And we reached out to the management company today. They sent us a response saying that they would not respond today. Meantime, the city of Aurora is saying they expect to see this complex in court at the end of the month.
And you know what the funniest part about this whole situation is? Is that as you see this happen and as you see these cities start to crumble, some of the interviews they do translate it, and you know what some of the migrants say? We should have went to Chicago or we should have went to New York. They not saying that we should have stayed home. If you'd have stayed home, you wouldn't even have had to deal with this problem, and you could have solved for the issues in your own country. But why would they stay home when they could just come here? I'm sure that some of them probably is going to catch a plane ride. I'm hearing that some of these cities are starting to send them over or try to low key send them over to other cities that they want to go to if they decide that they don't want to continue to live there, and then they can go and get resources, EBT cards. We already know that there's several people that's complaining both in Chicago and New York about the amount of money that a lot of these migrants are getting as a result of being now residents and permanent residents and getting work permits and licenses to be able to drive, work, live, play, and go to your schools. And I'm not even sure if they're paying taxes like that because a lot of them are working under the table. Some of these migrants, a lot of these migrants are basically saying, listen, we should have went to Chicago. We should have followed our first mind instead of following the rest of our family and going over here to Denver. But nobody wants to hold these legislators accountable. Everybody is just going to vote these people in based off of identity politics, and nobody's asking uncomfortable questions. But we gonna get to the thick of it. We're gonna get to the bottom of it. Make sure that y'all tap into the Patreon link is in the description. I'm ready to hear what y'all got to say in the chat because this is deeper. This is much deeper than just surface level regular. We ain't even got no policies whatsoever. You know, if the first policy, which she already started leaning on Trump, as far as talking about no taxes on tips, it's a little foolishness. They keep distracting y'all with this abortion debate as though you don't have 100 different forms of contraception and the ability to be able to close your legs or marry before you carry. But we not really diving as deep as we should dive. And I'm not even sure if this is a kosher thing for us to do because it probably won't be in our benefit, but we're going to do what we do anyway because we're not worried about what nobody else is talking about. The point that I want to make to you guys is that you got to be careful. Be careful with limiting yourself with information because the more informed that you become, the much more powerful you are, and less likely they are to distract you from things that actually add value into your life when you having conversations about what's best for you and where your vote should go. Because the vote shouldn't just be based off of what's happening in the national election. It should also be based off of what's happening on a local level. And we're not paying attention. We're not informing ourselves. And we got to get the information. And I'm going to be right here for you, giving it to you every single day, making sure you stay informed and not letting you down. I love you. I appreciate you. Can't wait to see what y'all say in the chat.